My husband and I got married about a year ago and have been together for 6 years. I became pregnant quite quickly, and I gave birth to twin girls about 4 weeks ago. Thankfully, neither of them needed to stay in the hospital for longer than normal, which is rare for twins, and I am so happy they're healthy. They were born naturally, so I don't have the surgical wound or anything, which has made things easier, although the whole thing was not a great experience. But once they were born, everything seemed to be okay. Except they just wouldn't breastfeed. I've tried, I really have. I've talked to all my doctors, I've done everything they said, but it just doesn't work, and it hurts as well. They both hate it. And I don't think I'm even producing enough for both of them, because when they will feed, they get really hungry and cry soon afterwards. I've tried absolutely everything to make it work, but it just doesn't, and they'll either refuse or not have enough. I told my husband I can't do this anymore, and he said that I should talk to my doctors, but it's probably a phase. And once they're hungry enough, they'll feed because that's what they'd been doing. Also, that it's far healthier for them to be breastfed and that we shouldn't just switch because they're being picky. He does look after the babies with me, and it's fairly evenly split throughout the day, but I've been getting up every night to try and feed them when they're hungry, but it's just not working. Eventually, I told my doctor I was doing everything I could, but they just wouldn't feed. They checked both of the babies for things that may be affecting this, but there was nothing. So she said just to move to formula and that I've done the best I could do, and it was better at this point to use formula instead, because then they'll be getting enough and not be waking up so often in the night. I told my husband what the doctor said and that we need to switch because the babies going hungry so often could have lasting effects on them in the future, and I don't want to affect their development. He disagreed, but the babies were starting to cry again and still not wanting to feed. So I called my doctor about everything I would need, what I would need to do. I went and got those things, and they actually fed and slept much better in the night. One of them was still a little fussy, but once she had some, she was so much better and drank the whole thing. It was such a relief that I could finally sleep for a bit, and they've been far happier for the last couple of days once I switched to formula. But I wasn't feeling well, so I asked my husband if he could feed them one night so I could sleep for the night. He still has parental leave, so he doesn't have work or anything that would be affected by that, but he said that I chose to go against him without a proper conversation or agreement, and so I should be responsible for feeding them still. It upsets me that he holds something like this over me when I tried the best I could to have them breastfeed. They just won't, and I've tried everything. It doesn't make any sense forcing them to go hungry when they will have formula, and they're both much happier now. I was talking to my mother, as she's going to be coming with my father to see the babies soon, and I was telling her that I was really tired. She said she can help me once she comes to see them with the babies and their feeds at night, but I'm already so tired and sore, and I wish my husband could help me now. But he said it's a waste of money and that I should be feeding them like a normal person, and that's what I'm naturally supposed to do. It makes me feel awful because I've tried so hard to do that, but I just can't. They're his babies too, and it would help so much if he could feed them at night. Sometimes, even just once a week. I know other women have gone through much worse, and what I'm dealing with is not that stressful, but it really is a lot, and I just wish I could have a night's sleep for once, instead of having to be awake so much. And I know I'm lucky, but it's really hard, and it's becoming a bit too much. I don't know how to find any kind of compromise with him when it comes to the feeds at night, and it's making it difficult. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, OB nurse here. Your husband is being unreasonable, controlling, and manipulative. He is punishing you for making a decision that actually is yours to unilaterally make because breastfeeding is your body. His input is secondary on this. They aren't his breasts, his body part being sucked on, or his mammary glands not producing enough, very common with twins. Formula isn't a toxic substance that poisons babies. It is a vital alternative in situations like yours. The biggest concern here is that your husband, rather than support you in what is obviously a difficult but necessary decision, is using the situation as an opportunity to escape shared parenting duties and blame you. Is he a humongous jerk in other areas of your marriage or life? Because I'm finding it hard to believe that someone this awful is a saint in other aspects. Please consider downloading a free PDF of Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. and reading it while you're giving bottles to the babies. Your husband is either temporarily insane or an emotional aggressor. Comment 2. But he said that I chose to go against him without a proper conversation or agreement, and so I should be responsible for feeding them still. I am furious just reading this for you. Your husband is being a controlling, condescending, manipulative, and hurtful AH. WTAF is wrong with him? Fed is best. If that means breastfed or bottle fed, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that your babies are fed. Your husband is way out of line here. Time for him to educate himself. How close are you with your parents? Is it an option to tell them what's happening and ask if you can stay there for a few days so you can get some help? If you can, do it. I'd also point blank ask your husband why he wants to starve his daughters. Why is he so against them getting fed? Why does he want to torture them? Because that's what the outcome here is by insisting on breastfed. Breastfeeding isn't an option. You aren't producing enough milk, and your girls aren't latching and eating. So, what are the alternatives? Now for the update. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. Just when I thought things couldn't get more tense, my husband's behavior took a turn that left me reeling. He started coming home late without explanation, his phone constantly buzzing with new messages. I didn't want to be that person, but suspicion gnawed at me until I couldn't ignore it anymore. I checked his phone while he was in the shower and my heart sank. Texts from a coworker, not just about work, but personal, flirty messages. I felt betrayed, not just by the emotional affair, but by the fact that he had the energy for this while I was drowning in exhaustion. I confronted him, and the argument that followed was explosive. He accused me of being paranoid and controlling, and I shot back with every ounce of hurt and anger I felt. In the heat of the moment, he admitted that he felt neglected since the twins arrived, and that he sought attention elsewhere. I was devastated. How could he think of himself at a time when our babies needed us the most? The next day, my parents arrived. My mother immediately sensed the tension and took me aside. I broke down and told her everything. She was furious on my behalf, but also practical. She suggested that I take a break and go stay with them for a few days to get some rest and perspective. I was hesitant, but the thought of uninterrupted sleep and support was too tempting. I agreed. While I was away, my father had a long talk with my husband. He didn't tell me what was said, but when I returned home, things were different. My husband was more attentive, apologetic, and he had bought a new crib and baby gear to ease the burden. He also started taking over night feeds without complaint, giving me the respite I desperately needed. It wasn't just the practical help that changed. We started talking more, really talking about our fears and frustrations. We were both first-time parents, overwhelmed and scared, and we hadn't been communicating. We agreed to start counseling to work through our issues. It was hard, but necessary. The twins, now more settled on formula, were thriving. They were gaining weight and sleeping better, which in turn improved everything at home. My husband and I were slowly rebuilding our relationship, and I could see the guilt in his eyes every time he looked at me. He was trying, really trying, to make amends. One evening, as we were putting the babies to bed, he broke down. He told me how ashamed he was for seeking comfort elsewhere, how he realized that his actions could have cost him his family. He promised to be better, to be the partner and father we deserved. I saw the sincerity in his eyes, and while I knew it would take time to fully trust him again, I felt a glimmer of hope for our future. As for me, I learned to be more vocal about my needs and to seek help when I'm struggling. My mother stayed with us for a few more weeks, her presence a balm to my frayed nerves. She taught me that it's okay to not be okay, and that asking for help doesn't make me any less of a mother. The betrayal was a shock to our system, but it forced us to confront issues we had been ignoring. It wasn't easy, but we were working through it together, and that's what mattered. Thanks for reading. My partner ignored his diabetes and cheated on me. So I left him to face the consequences alone and thrived without him. I, 27-year-old female, am leaving my partner of 2 years, 42-year-old male. He is a type 1 diabetic who has had many complications due to the disease. Despite experiencing these complications, His motivation to improve his management is still extremely low. He had a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, and pump. He chose to stop using them. His excuse was that he switched health insurance providers and that he needed his new doctor to write a prescription to continue getting his supplies. It's been a year. I think he's had plenty of time to find a new endocrinologist to rewrite a prescription for his Dexcom and pump. It still hasn't happened. During our time together, he has been in and out of the hospital with foot infections and diabetic ketoacidosis, DKAs. I've rushed out of work and called ambulances countless times. Every single time he is told that he needs to be more careful. Every single time we come up with a plan for me to help him improve his management. I've offered to send him reminders to check his sugar and insulin, and at one point I kept his pills in a box so I could give them to him at the designated times. Even when we verbally agreed to one of our plans for me to support his management, he would only follow the plan for a few days before getting defensive and secretive about his blood sugar levels. I also stepped up as the primary bread maker during this time, as he was frequently out of work. In addition to helping him with his medication management, I was also in charge of most household chores that he was physically unable to do. He had a decent stretch for several months where he was working and doing relatively okay with his health. I was very proud of him, but I made it clear that I would not do the hospital merry-go-round again. There were times when I was calling ambulances multiple times in the span of a week, while still keeping up with work and running our household. I reminded him of this and set my bottom line. He expressed understanding. Well, the merry-go-round started again. There have been 2 episodes of diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA, in the span of 3 weeks. Both times he admitted to going days at a time without checking his blood sugar or taking any insulin. He also admitted to lying to me when he told me his sugar was fine, whenever I asked. He knows exactly what is going to happen if he keeps doing this. And at this point, I believe there's more of a mental health component. He was prescribed antidepressant and referred to therapy last time he was in the hospital. He didn't take the pills and didn't go to the therapy appointment. He hasn't taken any of his pills for blood pressure, cholesterol, and anticoagulants in at least several weeks. He says that he is taking them, but when I look at the pill bottles and they're still full from when they were picked up from the pharmacy, I know he's lying. His friends and family probably think that I'm evil. I think they might be right because I'm kicking a poor man while he's down. But I've tried so hard to get him better and support him. I feel like an evil, ableist piece of crap. My guilt is eating me alive. How do I allow myself to accept that I did this to protect myself and him? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am disabled with a fairly intense medical routine of IVs at home, feeding tubes, injections, etc. Yes, some days I can't be bothered and don't want to do it all. But I do it anyway, because that's what it takes to keep me alive and functioning. Your partner doesn't even seem to realize the effect his negligence is having on you. He is so self-absorbed that he can't see that he's putting you through hell. I think you're right, there is an element of depression going on. Self-neglect is a common symptom, but he doesn't want to help himself, and you can't force that. But he can't be bothered to consider how this is all affecting you. Honestly, I would leave too. You can't do much more. If he doesn't want to get better, he won't. He needs intensive help for his mental health and physical health before he dies prematurely. You don't have to torture yourself watching him die slowly. You can leave. Comment 2. OP, you know where this is going. He is going to end up in an early grave. Whether you stay or go is not going to change the outcome. The only thing you accomplish by staying is delaying the inevitable. He is an adult. He needs to take responsibility for his own health. He is clearly unwilling to do that. There is certainly a mental health component. But again, you can't force him to medicate or seek help. If you leave him, be direct about why. Tell him, I am leaving you. Despite all of my efforts and all of your broken agreements and promises, your behavior hasn't changed. I am not going to marry you just to watch you continue to neglect your health and end up a widow. Please get help. Take care of yourself. And take action to improve your health while you are still young. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for more on what's been happening. So, a lot has gone down since I last wrote. I finally made the tough call to leave my partner, but things got way messier than I expected. After I decided to leave, I found out he'd been hiding something huge from me. Turns out, he'd been seeing another woman behind my back for months. And here's the kicker. She was his ex, someone he'd always told me was crazy and that he'd never go back to. I was floored. All the times he was supposedly at doctor's appointments or picking up prescriptions, he was with her. I guess that explained why he never got his CGM and pump sorted out. But it wasn't just the cheating that got to me. It was the lies. He'd been lying about taking his meds, about his health, about where he was going. I felt like a fool for believing him, for trying to help him manage his diabetes when he clearly didn't care enough to do it himself. I confronted him about the affair, and it was like he didn't even care that I knew. He just shrugged and said it wasn't working out between us anyway. That's when I knew I'd made the right decision to leave. I couldn't be with someone who had so little respect for me or for himself. The betrayal stung, but it also freed me from the guilt I'd been feeling. I realized I wasn't the bad guy here. I'd done everything I could to help him, but he was the one who'd thrown it all away. His health, our relationship, everything. I moved out and got my own place. It was tough, starting over like that, but it was also a relief. No more hospital runs, no more lies, no more feeling like I was responsible for someone else's life. I could finally focus on myself. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved in with his ex not long after I left. I also heard that his health had taken a turn for the worse. Part of me felt sorry for him, but I also knew it wasn't my problem anymore. I'd given him every chance to get better, and he'd chosen not to take them. It's been a few months now, and I'm doing okay. I've got a new job, new friends, and a new outlook on life. I've learned that you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped, and that sometimes you have to walk away to save yourself. Thanks for reading about the chaos that's been my life. My boyfriend's sister accused me of cheating. So I exposed her affair with my coworker and watched as her perfect little world crumbled. Edit update. For those asking why I still have the condoms, they are the exact size and brand that my boyfriend uses with me. So it doesn't make sense to throw them out. My boyfriend wears that size brand. He just didn't like the idea that I purchased them before him and have been with other guys who can wear that size or were potentially bigger than him. Edit #2. He told me that me having those condoms was the equivalent of him keeping a bra of a woman he slept with that was double D's. This makes no logical sense to me because 1, condoms are birth control and prevent STIs, while a man holding onto a bra is a trophy that he has no use for. 2, I'm sure he has been with women before me who had qualities that I might not have. They may have been tighter, had bigger breasts, were attractive or trisarine dead, but I have never cared or given him shoot about it because I'm with him now and I know I have great qualities. So why does it matter who he or I was with in his past? Isn't that part of being mature and secure? 1, he told me I was flaunting them. I wasn't. They were in my bathroom drawer that he does not use, and he doesn't like the idea that I was with someone who was big. He saw them because I was getting ready for bed and opened the drawer to get my face cream. He asked me if those were his condoms. They're the same brand size he's used with me. And I said no, they were mine. And he was visibly bothered. 2, he told me that I made him feel insecure for having those condoms, and he doesn't like the idea that I was with men who could wear that size. It's not the first time he's mentioned size to me, but I've consistently told him how much he satisfies me, how big he is, and how much I enjoy intimacy with him. 3, I've never mentioned past partner sizes or made any negative remarks about him. But he said that because I never told him he was the biggest I've been with. It was obvious I'd been with bigger. 4, the Magnum condoms I have are the same brand size he has used with me. 5, I told him that we both have a past, and that it seems there's insecurity about weenie size, but that it's unfair to make it out as if I'm a bad person for having condoms in a drawer. He was insistent that I was flaunting them. 6, I told him it was okay to feel how he feels. But that demonizing me is hypocritical when he had boxes of old for her pleasure ribbed condoms that were for other women before me. I hate ribbed condoms, and I've told him that because the ribbing actually hurts. I stated that I didn't get upset with him for having old condoms or that he'd been with other women before me. I'm concerned about his inability to process his emotions and take accountability for how he feels. And we argue in circles where he tries to justify his statement that I'm a bad person and make him feel insecure for flaunting them. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Retroactive jealousy is a thing, and it sounds like that's what is going on. These are his insecurities to manage. Being jealous is one thing. We can't control our emotions. Responding to that jealousy is something else, and something we can control. Your boyfriend is a jerk for acting on that jealousy, calling you a bad person and whatnot. Comment 2. Having condoms as an adult who is dating is normal and sensible. Your boyfriend's insecurity shouldn't be made into your issue, and he's handled this incredibly badly. Unless he was willing to work on himself, I would dip. You're only 5 months in. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Things have escalated since then. So, my boyfriend's sister, who's been living with us for a while, overheard our argument about the condoms. She's always been the type to stir the pot, and this time was no different. She took it upon herself to tell my boyfriend that I was probably cheating on him because no woman keeps condoms from past relationships unless they're still seeing other guys. Her words, not mine. This set off a whole new level of drama. My boyfriend, already insecure, latched onto his sister's theory like a lifeline. He started snooping through my phone, my emails, even my work stuff. I caught him one night and we had a huge fight. I couldn't believe he'd invade my privacy like that. Trust is the foundation of a relationship, and his was crumbling fast, but his sister wasn't done. She went through my things and found an old photo of me with an ex. It was from years ago, tucked away in a box of mementos I'd forgotten about. She showed it to my boyfriend, and that's when he lost it. He accused me of holding on to past flames and not being committed to our relationship. I tried to explain that everyone has a past and keeps things for memories, not because they want to go back to them. But he wouldn't listen. His sister had filled his head with so much doubt that he couldn't see reason. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, his sister claimed she saw me getting cozy with the coworker when she stopped by my office one day. It was a lie. I knew it, she knew it. But my boyfriend? He was so far gone in his jealousy and paranoia that he believed her over me. We had a massive argument, and in the heat of the moment, he threw the box of mementos out the window. It felt like he was trying to erase my past, which was a part of who I am. I was so angry and hurt, but I didn't want to give up on us. I suggested couples therapy, hoping it would help us work through his trust issues. Therapy was tough. We dug up a lot of buried issues. Turns out, my boyfriend's ex cheated on him, and that's why he was so paranoid. His sister knew about it and used it to manipulate him against me. She enjoyed the chaos, I guess. After several sessions, things started to calm down. My boyfriend apologized for not trusting me and for letting his sister's words get to him. He promised to work on his insecurities and to trust me. I wanted to believe that we could move past this, that we could rebuild what his sister tried to tear down. But then, his sister announced she was pregnant. And guess who the father was? My coworker, the one she accused me of getting cozy with. It was like a soap opera twist that no one saw coming. My boyfriend was shocked, and I was, relieved. It meant she'd be moving out soon, and maybe, just maybe, we could have some peace. Her pregnancy shifted the focus away from us. My boyfriend started to see her true colors, how she lied and manipulated to get what she wanted. He felt guilty for doubting me and for the way he treated me. We were slowly getting back to a good place, working through our issues together. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. My boyfriend's ex reached out to him, saying she wanted to apologize for what she did to him. She wanted closure, He told me about it, and I could see he was torn. Part of him wanted to meet her, to get that apology. But another part of him was scared it would open old wounds. He decided to meet her, and I supported him. He needed this for himself, to heal. When he came back, he was different. Calmer, more at peace. He said he forgave her and that he was ready to fully commit to our relationship. To trust me. So here we are, 3 months later, in a better place than we've been in a long time. His sister is preparing for motherhood, and we're preparing to move on from the past. It's not perfect, but it's real and it's ours. I've accepted the situation, the good and the bad. It's not what I expected, but maybe that's just how life is. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.